We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Grief hits, and it feels like, well, like the society gives you just two options.
Uh-huh.
Either you grit your teeth, power through it, maybe emerge somehow stronger,
Right. The triumph narrative.
or you just, succumb to the weight of it all. You're perpetually broken.
Yeah.
And that stark contrast, over it or completely shattered, it just feels incredibly lonely. It doesn't really capture the messy reality of being human, does it?
Not at all.
So if that resonates with you, if you've ever felt adrift in that confusing middle ground, then you're in exactly the right place for this deep dive.
Absolutely. Today we're diving into some, I think, truly illuminating material that challenges that very, very limited view of grief.
Yeah.
Our source offers a really fresh lens, a way to understand and, maybe more importantly, to navigate loss.
Okay.
It moves beyond this simplistic binary, this idea of being either stuck or healed,
Right.
and it really aims to help us discover a more authentic way to live with our pain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The author of our source material, they really take issue with this idea that we have to either conquer grief, become some sort of improved version of ourselves,
Mm-hmm. The better than before idea.
yeah, or else we're just doomed to a life overshadowed by sorrow. It's this really rigid, like on or off switch that just doesn't line up with how most people actually experience
It
things.
really doesn't.
So the dominant story out there paints grief in such black and white. Either conquer it, move on, stronger, or, unending sorrow.
But this source we're looking at today really just throws that simplistic view right out the window. And frankly, it can be a damaging view, too.
Definitely damaging.
And building on that, it's kind of striking how this either or thinking rarely applies to other really complex human experiences,
That's a great point.
We get that personal growth, change. It's usually gradual. It's multifaceted.
Yeah.
But then when we talk about grief, somehow this expectation of a definitive endpoint, like complete recovery or permanent suffering, it just takes over.
It does.
And that makes it incredibly hard to even talk about what the actual day-to-day experience is like.
And the author, they really push back hard against this transformation model, this idea that's everywhere, that there's always a silver lining,
Right.
that will inevitably find meaning and come out of grief somehow better. They're super clear about it. They can't offer that guaranteed happy ending, that neat little bow that ties it all up.
Which is refreshingly honest, I think. But at the same time, the source also rejects the other extreme.
Okay.
The idea that grief is just this inescapable abyss, that the pain will just, suck forever with no way to coexist with it.
Right, that's not helpful either.
Exactly. It recognizes that neither of these absolute positions really captures the potential for actually navigating loss.
Okay, so if these two ends of the spectrum, total recovery or total devastation, if they don't give us the full picture, what does? What is this third path the source talks about?
Well, the heart of this new perspective, it really lies in finding a kind of middle way.
A middle way. Okay.
Yeah. It's about acknowledging the reality of the pain, the grief, but without that intense pressure to eliminate it completely, or conversely, surrendering to endless suffering. Instead, the source suggests we focus on tending to pain and grief by bearing witness.
Bearing witness.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds profound. But what does that actually look like in practice? Is it just noticing the pain or is it more active?
The author uses some really evocative imagery here. It's about not turning away from the pain,
Okay.
not rushing in to fix it, but rather, and this is a quote, standing there, right there, inside the obliterated universe,
Wow.
and remarkably, somehow making a home there.
Making a home there.
Yeah. It suggests this possibility of actually building a life that integrates the loss, but without being totally consumed by it.
So you don't have to choose between, like, forgetting the love you shared and just being stuck forever in grief?
Exactly. And what it looks like day to day, well, bearing witness might just mean allowing yourself to feel the sadness when a memory pops up without immediately trying to push it away or distract yourself.
Okay, just letting it be there.
Or maybe it's talking to a friend, someone supportive about your loss, but without expecting them to give you solutions. Or perhaps creating little rituals of remembrance, ways to actively honor the person you lost. It's an act of allowing, really.
So it's about honoring the loss, the reality of it, not trying to somehow erase it.
Precisely.
And the source makes this really powerful connection, doesn't it? Talking about honoring the full breadth of grief as being, like, equal to the full breadth of love.
It is a powerful connection, yeah. And if we zoom out a bit, the source suggests that as we mature, the real choice isn't about avoiding vulnerability, because we can't, really.
Right.
But it's about how we choose to inhabit it, how we live within that vulnerability. It's about maybe becoming more courageous, more compassionate through our experiences with loss, rather than just trying to bypass the pain completely.
This feels like a really big shift from how we usually think about things because, I mean, so much of our culture seems geared towards fixing things, right? Solving problems.
Oh, definitely.
The source even calls it this mastery orientation.
Yeah, that's the term they use. Think about it like our societal obsession with fixing things. Your car breaks down. You want to master that problem, get it running again.
Find the solution.
And we tend to apply that exact same fix-it mentality to emotions, which, as the source points out, just doesn't really work with something like grief.
No.
Exactly. The source highlights how Western culture has this really ingrained drive to find solutions. And look, that's undeniably good in many areas, medicine, technology.
Sure, cures for diseases, absolutely.
But it just falls short when you apply it to these really fundamental parts of being human, like grief, love, birth, death. These aren't problems with simple, neat solutions.
Right, because the immediate instinct, often when someone's grieving, is you want to fix it for them. You want to cheer them up, get them back to how they were. But the source argues that that very intention, that urge to fix, can actually be unhelpful. It can get in the way.
It really raises an important question, doesn't it? How does this whole mastery orientation affect our ability to genuinely connect with and support people who are grieving?
Yeah.
The source suggests this need to fix or get someone back to their normal self can actually block meaningful conversation. It can hinder growth, real connection, intimacy even.
Because it makes the person grieving feel like their experience is like a problem that needs solving.
Exactly. Rather than just a reality that needs acknowledging, needs holding space.
And that connects to Dr. Pauline Boss's idea of ambiguous loss, which the source brings up. This kind of underlying unspoken grief in our culture.
Yes.
It's like we don't have the shared language or maybe the accepted social ways to truly hold space for grief that just continues.
Precisely. And that's why the source proposes this pretty fundamental shift, moving away from the mastery approach and towards what it calls a mystery orientation when we think about grief and love too, actually.
So instead of trying to solve grief like it's a puzzle, we're more like contemplating a vast, maybe unknowable landscape. Is that the idea?
Kind of, yeah. A mystery orientation. Let's unpack that a bit.
Please do.
So, building on that idea, bowing to the mystery, means approaching your own broken heart and the grief you see in others with a sense of deep respect, reverence even.
Reverence, okay.
It's about allowing the space for things to be exactly as they are in that moment without that immediate pressure to clean it all up or rush through it or find a quick fix.
Letting it be.
Yes. And this act of just letting it be can actually bring this unexpected sense of ease. Maybe ease isn't quite the right word, but it can make the unbearable feel just a tiny bit more survivable.
So by accepting the reality of grief, as messy and painful as it is, we can then shift our energy to just navigating life inside that pain rather than constantly fighting against it. That actually makes a lot of sense.
And that loops us right back to this new model of grief we're exploring. It's not about getting rid of the pain, because often that's just impossible, right?
Right.
But it's about discovering new and beautiful ways, as the source puts it, to inhabit what hurts.
And a really crucial part of that, the source says, is recognizing the depth of love necessary to witness each other's pain without rushing in to clean it up.
Yes. That companionship piece, just being present, is huge.
Yeah.
And another key aspect the source dives into is this kind of ripple effect it imagines.
Yep.
That by changing our basic approach to pain, maybe we can actually help create a different kind of world, one that's more grounded in things like sovereignty, kinship, poignancy, grace. The idea is when we stop resisting what hurts so fiercely, we actually free up energy. Energy to make real, meaningful changes that prioritize reducing suffering and making love the primary support system.
Wow. That feels, almost revolutionary. That not resisting pain could actually lead to broader positive change.
It connects directly to self-compassion, which the source mentions, quoting Robert Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Compassion isn't about fixing something or getting over it. It's about creating spaciousness, allowing our inner experience, but with gentleness.
So instead of beating yourself up because you're not over your grief yet.
Exactly.
Self-compassion is like giving yourself the same kindness, the same understanding you probably offer a friend who was going through something really hard.
That's it, exactly. Treat yourself like you'd treat a friend.
So, this whole shift in understanding and approaching grief,
Yeah.
it's not just a personal thing, is it? It has wider implications. The source talks about the personal is global, the global is personal.
Absolutely. It argues that the more openly we can talk about the actual reality of grief,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes for everyone. When we're honest about the challenges of just being alive, of loving people, of experiencing loss, we create a more supportive space for everybody. Even for those who might initially think grief is just a problem to solve.
Because true support, then, isn't about fixing something that can't actually be fixed.
Right.
But it's about helping the person grieving to carry their reality, whatever that looks like for them.
Exactly. And that includes how we treat ourselves when we're grieving.
Mm-hmm.
It's about allowing the pain to just unfold without judging it, without needing an immediate resolution or some specific outcome.
Yeah.
We need to stop this otherizing, seeing people who are grieving as somehow separate or different from us. Instead, we need to recognize our shared human vulnerability, our fleeting time here.
It's about finding ways to express our grief authentically, right? Without feeling like we have to shrink our pain down to make other people feel more comfortable.
Yes, that's a huge part of it.
And the source makes this really vital point, that loving someone, even in the face of death and pain, isn't a sign something's wrong. It's an essential part of being human, of connection.
It really is. And connecting this to the bigger picture again, this new model, this middle ground.
Yeah.
It's not just about our individual well-being. It's presented as a really vital path forward for our larger interconnected lives.
To you, our listener, the source actually has a very direct message. It emphasizes that simply by engaging with this conversation, right now you're already part of creating this new understanding. You're participating in this shift.
And there's real validation offered, too. You have the inherent right, the source says, to be supported in a way that truly honors your past or present and your future self, all in light of your loss.
Yeah.
And finding your own middle way, your own path through this. It's not just for you. It actually helps pave a more compassionate path for others who will inevitably face grief down the line.
And the source really wants to reassure you listening that the pain you feel, it doesn't mean you are broken, doesn't mean you're grieving wrong.
Oh.
It suggests that it's actually our cultural approach to grief that needs fixing, that needs to evolve, not you.
Which raises such an important point about the courage it takes, doesn't it? The courage to seek support while you're grieving, especially when the culture might be subtly or not so subtly telling you that you should have moved on by now.
Definitely.
That very act of reaching out, of seeking support, is presented as a really profound act of self-love.
And ultimately, the source reminds us that grief, it's powerful proofs, really, of the love that's been in our lives.
A testament to love.
Yeah, and to our natural human desire for that love to continue somehow, even when the person is gone. It even acknowledges, really directly, how hard things might be for you right now. It says, quite plainly, you are here now, and here sucks.
Yeah. It doesn't shy away from that reality. And the fundamental goal of the source material, it's not about magically taking your pain away. It's about reflecting it back to you with understanding, making you feel seen, feel heard in your experience, without judgment, without that pressure to heal on some external timeline.
Right.
It really just encourages you to stay close to your own heart, find your own way as you navigate your unique path through grief.
So to kind of bring this all together, the real key insight from this deep dive, I think, is recognizing that crucial middle ground in grief.
Yeah.
It's about learning how to inhabit our pain, maybe with more self-compassion, more connection, rather than just chasing this unrealistic idea of a complete cure or, giving it entirely to despair.
And another really key takeaway is how this perspective validates the actual experience of grief, which is often so complex, so nonlinear, right?
Totally.
It encourages a kinder, more accepting approach, not just towards ourselves, but also towards other people navigating their own losses.
Okay, so finally, maybe just something to leave you with. Consider this. What fundamental shifts might we actually see in our own relationships, maybe even in society as a whole, if we really embrace this mystery orientation towards grief? If we really made more space for the full, messy expression of both love and loss, and perhaps, even more importantly, think about what small step you might be able to take today, maybe just today, to honor your own pain, or perhaps the pain of someone you care about, without that immediate reflex to try and fix it.